Hi everyone, welcome to a Pioneer webinar. I'm Sudeshna Sen, your host and founder of Pioneer, a company. It's a network that's where we have a lot of women founders building game-changing companies. This is meant to be an interactive session, so feel free to drop in your questions, go off mute, chime in as we talk. And if you would like on the chat, feel free to share who you are, where you're from, what you're building, even share your LinkedIn profile so that we can get to connect with each other. So let's get going. Like this topic is such an exciting topic, and you will hopefully get very excited with what EG and Marina are building. So as you know, many founders they raise millions before they ship a product. But what EG and Marina have done is that they have just built given it all for 6 years, weekends, weeknights, full-time jobs on the side, because they truly believe in this mission of what they are building, and they're building something extremely exciting that is transformative. So with that, I'm thrilled to be joined by EG and Marina, co-founders of NNABI, who will walk us through, the brand that they have built without any outside capital, without any playbook, and something that's so meaningful to women. So before dive in, let's start with introductions. So EJ and Marina, if you could introduce yourself and Nabi, we start there.
You want to go,
Yeah,
Marina? Go ahead.
yeah. Hi, I'm Marina Penn. I'm one of the two halves of NABI. I am a brand strategist. If we're talking about what we do every day and what we've been doing, I am a brand and creative strategist. I've been working shaping brands and brand storytelling for the past 20 years. I'm originally from Argentina. I've worked in advertising and marketing most of my career, and 5, 6 years ago, with EJ, we partnered and started NABI, and we'll talk about that. But right now, I'm doing both my career in advertising and brand strategy and building NABI. So EJ, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm EJ. I'm based in New York. I am originally from South Korea. I sort of had an interesting career path, started in finance and then jumped into advertising without knowing what it was. And then sort of past few jobs has been in marketing communications. But my thread of all those different stops has been really using data insights in an interesting way. So now a most recent sort of I guess my day job, I have well, we all have like a double day, right? And the day job is working in intelligence, so using data analytics the smart way, so we can help our clients build their reputation, protect their reputation, looking at different interesting opportunities from a communication perspective. Again, all data driven. So that's the day job. But then, this NABI started as a passion, sort of personal passion project that evolved into now really, helping people who we are all kind of going through a sort of same but different experience, like same being the perimenopause, but it's been a very meaningful kind of what started as like, okay, might as well just be like a little like MBA, right? Because when you work in a full-time job, like they kind of box you in. And I think a lot of us are like, we can do much more than what we do today, and what you are defined as. And I think this sort of matching the personal passion and the market needs, and then sort of like I want to learn more because the job itself is not going to extract you the way that you want. And I think this has been a really good learning ground for both Marina and I. I think we are always learning something new. And I think I'm sure that, this is the right group because I'm sure you guys are all learning something new every day as well and stretching yourself. And I know that everybody else probably is also hustling as we are. So I think we're kind of all united by like we recognize each other. And then I think we're also very much like if you ever just want to chat through or something, we're here. And so I'm really happy to be part of this community. And I've been kind of watching Pioneer since the inception. So I really do know that people are getting value out of this connection. Thank you again for having us so we can share our story and kind of what's been working, what we are working towards, what we're working on, So we are happy to share having a raw conversation with you all today.
Thanks, EJ. Thanks, Marina. I mean, you guys, both of you are really troopers. So you're doing a full-time job and you've built Navi, and Navi is doing exceptionally well. So let's start with your roots. So 6 years ago, perimenopause was something that was barely talked about. And so there was really no roadmap for both of you to build a CPG brand in this space. What made you go all the way in?
I think there was a light bulb moment when we, sort of the inception of, because I think we all kind of sometimes landing on the actual thing that you do build, it takes a bit of time, right? You got to do the market study and understanding the marketplace and kind of what is it that you're bringing to the world that is different and new. And so we kind of started with the hormonal health because that's something that Marina and I shared experience. Of having our own sets of not the same but different kind of hormonal sort of situations as women. And I think we're united by that, how it can be annoying. But then, hormone health is such a broad term. So when we're kind of getting into more of the menopause, because we're also getting older, I think that was something really fascinating. But then once we are keep drilling down with more research and more understanding of this menopause world, um, there was no such thing as the menopause, which was a really awakening moment for us. That perimenopause was like the 10 to 12 years of leading up to that one day of menopause. I think for us, that was like, whoa, that's like we're in it, but also we didn't know much about it. But we thought we're really savvy and educated around hormonal health and being the perimenopause and menopause, etc. But we weren't. And I think that's kind of when we looked at each other, said, if we don't know enough about these things and we spend a lot of money and all the try and errors to make us feel better, there are many people like us out there. And I think that's when we thought that we want to decouple perimenopause from menopause. We do not want to celebrate that one blanket lazy narrative of menopause when women do not experience perimenopause, menopause together. Physically, it's just not possible, right? So why are we talking about the menopause as if it's like a all fits all? And why are we talking about the solutions and services for the menopause? Like who are we talking to? So I think leveraging Marina's experience and my experience, like doing this for other brands, we kind of wanted to put that towards how do we make it so clear that perimenopause is a distinct time of our lives and also the distinct body that it deserves is attention, care, and then education. And that's when we started that there was definitely a need for it. But you're right. People didn't talk about it 6+ years ago. And I think we also at one point got discouraged to actually decouple perimenopause from menopause. But we're glad that we didn't give up because now a lot of people are talking about perimenopause is getting pronounced. So again, maybe we're a little early. Marina says a lot, like often, like, oh, we're too a little early. But I think somebody had to see it. So we're glad that we are still holding firm and building the company that's laser focusing on perimenopause. There are way too many brands that are like perimenopause, menopause, the full thing. If you have the resources and you can actually thoughtfully support women through all that phase, I kudos to you. But we wanted to be very authentic to what we're doing and felt like both of us in Paris and that both of us feeling really passionate about this point in time, we really had to do something about it. And the worrying about the menopause and the postmenopause, that was going to be like just too much for us to. And also, it can be quite confusing too when you try to do too many things, not only on our side from an operation, but the person or people that we're serving. So creating this Team Perry brand, NNABI, we're very single-minded on purpose. And I think that's been, something that we'll keep doubling on about Perry and being, educating and having a solution that's built specifically for women in perimenopause.
Now, I love how much purpose driven both of you are. And clearly, it shows in 6 years, despite what comes, you've stuck to that mission and you have stuck to educating women regarding Perry. And look where you've come. So let's talk a little bit about, how you built it. So building a physical supplement that goes into someone's body is this whole different thing than building any digital product or even
Yeah.
any other physical product to that for that matter. So you had when you started no formulator, no factory, no roadmap. you know uh, Talk to us about how did you even start, where did you start?
Yeah, but so let me take a step back on that because just I'm picking up where EJ left, and we did not start this and said, let's make a supplement. It was a very long journey, and that's why we're saying we started this 6 years ago and we launched a little over 2 years ago. So there's a chunk of time that we spent really trying to understand what perimenopause is and what, like hormones are for women and how they work in our body. So really, really educating ourselves and then trying to understand what we could do around that. And a supplement was not the first thing that drove us. It was very much education. Like other women like us need to know about this. Younger women that are not here yet need to know about this and that it's coming. So those were the initial conversations we had with EJ around education, understanding what's happening to your body, because if we were not aware of this, many women were not, and we do have data that supports still how much work needs to be done. And NABI started as a very mission-driven education focused endeavor. And then I think it was more the strategists in us and because of the work that we do that is like, okay, we're bringing a problem. We're talking about perimenopause and this is happening to your body. So what? So, we're going to break the news. This is happening to your body and it's just like go and live your life. So there had to come something else after that, really understanding what's happening, creating that awareness, and then just being able to offer some kind of solution. And so that was a bit of the natural path for us to start thinking about a solution. As we were thinking about solutions, was what kind of solution do we want to offer? And just to keep it very short, we ended up in something that you would take and would help your body. And so we looked at different things with then and did knitting it to a supplement, an herbal supplement that you take in capsules, which was a long process, but it was just really thinking about bringing a solution as well, not only the education and the capacity to identify this in your body, but then also something that you could do about it. And so that's how the product started its journey. And as you said, we don't come from this background of formulating supplements, so this was a learning path, and it was also challenging because, as EJ was mentioning before, in the US there were no conversations around perimenopause. There was conversation about menopause, but perimenopause was basically lumped in, was not discussed. This is something that happens to older women. And so just as we were thinking about bringing solutions for this specific space, we didn't have a lot of people to consult here in the US. So at the beginning, we started working with people in the UK, with doctors and formulators and experts in perimenopause in the UK. And we did a bulk of our work there, just not only educating ourselves, but then also starting to think about a product. And then we partnered with a doctor and a naturopath and herbalist from the UK and started thinking about what the product could look like, how it would work, how it would be different and helpful for women in perimenopause. And that's how we started crafting the bones of what the product is today, and the formulation and the way that it works in your body. And then, as many founders do, you would look for experts in a specific field that will fill in the blanks for you, because you cannot learn everything in the world. So just really trying to look for people that are really good at what they do in specific fields and partner with them and get better at understanding this is how you create a supplement, this is how you create a formulation, these are the things that you need to take care of and do. And these are the places you could go that are certified, that are legit. And these are the people that you could be working with. So really leaning into that networking that experts will bring with them and consultants would bring with them, just so you can really work with experts in each of the fields, like that being a manufacturer, a testing facility, formulators, really a group of people that we did not have in our network. So we brought in experts to do that work. So that is a bit of the background on how we ended up uh, thinking about a supplement and developing one for perimenopause.
I mean, if I in my add, so the I think sometimes like the getting that first doctor to talk to you or the formulator or whoever, like not through the lens of like, hey, we're gonna pay, you're gonna make it. It actually started as more like, hey, I love what you're doing. And actually I found this particular formulator that we were ended up building a very different relationship with through a podcast. You know, she was interviewed. I really liked what she was saying and then just reached out. And then again, because at the time there was not as a lot of conversation. I mean, we ended up having conversation. I think when you are real about the problem that you're solving, that people actually want to be part of that good solution. So I think that's something that, not that, we had a lot of money, none of that actually, we're still bootstrapping and obviously that comes with its pros and cons, which we can talk about in a bit. But I think that that's sort of how we start recruiting almost. I'm not thinking through the medical board type of way, but it's more like we're looking for a partner. And yes, we've never done the formulation, but we actually briefed the person like this is what we want. And we knew because we were that woman who will be taking this every day. So we want to make sure that we're making this through the lens of not for somebody else, but like literally creating for us. And I think that also very helpful because we're asking the right question. And then, of course, like we can't just be the two people and, putting something out there. We need to validate it, which we did. But I think it was important that we were the customer. I think that's very helpful, so that we can actually ask some pointy questions. And then again, while we never done this, we were joint actually inventors of this product because we were very much part of vision planning. And then we knew exactly how this wanted to show up in the marketplace, and they wanted to make sure that formulator who knows the ingredient, the actual dosaging and things like that, those are the scientific the equity that we needed to and experience that we need to tap into. But I think it was a combination of those as together, kind of working as a team.
That's
Yeah, yeah,
fascinating.
and you're bringing up something, sorry, something that EJ was saying that triggered because, and I'm sure that it's very important to this group, is trademarking and just ensuring that your IP is protected. And that's something that with EJ, we were always very mindful and very aware of that. And maybe that's because of our background and what we do, but the importance of the trademark and IP and patent, which last week we got a patent of one of our formulations approved, which is, it took us like 3 years and a few $1,000s. I would say that is very well invested money. And that also speaks to in our case, because we're in supplements, it speaks to the craft behind the product. This is not white label. This is something that is specifically crafted, that is formulated by an expert, that it's something that we put together and no one should be able to replicate. And this is not something that we bought from a manufacturer and stamped a logo and a nice label on. So there's a lot of work there and it's worth protecting. So whatever you're doing, just being very mindful that it is expensive, but it's money that it's very well invested, and down the line it will pay dividends. That being a brand, and we do have an experience of brand trademarking a brand and then just like having to change it to NNABI, which I love NNABI, and I think it's the name that the company had to have. But we did have another name before and it got trademarked in while we were doing the paperwork. So it's just like so important to be on top of those things early on and protect your IP as you're moving through the creation of your brand and product.
Wow, I think you covered it's just a fascinating journey, Marina and EJ, in the sense that you took it slow, you took your time finding the right people. So when the US wasn't, you couldn't find the right folks in the US, you went into the market where they have an awareness of Perry and you just doubled down there, found the manufacturer, formulator, all of that, and the experts. I'd love to open it up for questions. I think we covered a
Yeah,
lot of
actually, if I
ground.
may, yeah, so like we love questions, we can have open dialogue. But I think that the thing about the manufacturing, so when we got to the point where like, okay, how can we help this woman so that she can control herself on a day-to-day basis? Because that's the kind of women that we're serving, and that's the kind of women we are. We want to do something about the problem we have. So that daily sort of like a supplement of some kind. And as Marina said, we actually tested various different formats but then supplement actually ended up being a good format for what we're trying to carry in terms of the ingredient and protecting the quality of it all and everything else. But I do clearly remember this guy who I was talking to who was on the manufacturing side. And I can't forget the day he goes, do not do it. Don't do it. The capsule, because they are MOQ, the minimum order quantity, is just humongous. As a starter, when you don't have a lot of funding, it's going to be hard for you. And I don't disagree. And I think sometimes, I think we all of us, hopefully on this call, can relate to when you don't know much. I think sometimes you're less scared. And so we're like, well, this is the best format, right? It was extremely hard to find the manufacturing facility actually will work with us because we couldn't afford the quantity and a certain sort of the size of the order that they mandate. But it was very important for us to make this in USA. We did not want to make it overseas and pour it like there's just too many hazards and risk, especially with the botanical supplement botanical ingredient that we're using, which is a very high quality, but we don't want it to be exposed and with the sun and the temperature and all that good stuff. So we actually had to go very scrappy, and of course we met some interesting characters along the way. I should say that's a nice way of saying it, but people I think we need to make sure that we have to be okay with the smaller quantity and then a proof of concept, if you will. And I think that us coming from a corporate world, that was quite hard actually to transition because we used to work with big budgets and, I think that just different environment, but it was our own savings. And obviously that feels different. And then when we couldn't afford a certain amount of, volume, same thing with the packaging and the product. I think we did choose the category that, like, if you're building a SaaS product, I think raising money upfront makes sense, and then get to an MVP, and then you scale once the money is raised. But for us, we had to have a complete product to go to market. So I think that was sort of non-negotiable for us. Then it took some time, and I think that's why it took some time for us. Maybe we could have done it faster, but I think that we were able to be resourceful and find those partners that will actually, work with us for that volume, for that budget. And then I think that is the hard part, frankly. I think that all of us probably can relate to all different aspects. But I just wanted to call that out. It wasn't straight line, but I think along the way we kind of found some good people that we still stay in touch with, and that's why I think sometimes when people come to us, we're like happy to make some connections and introductions or whatever, because we kind of gone through that part, and hopefully we can help somebody else save some time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think as you said, I think what I am seeing the through line is that both of you did not give up and you just found the right partners. And it wasn't an easy path because, as you said, EJ and Marina, you were so new to this category. You were new to building, new to this category, and and so you don't have your bootstrapping, so a lot of constraints you were working under, be it knowledge wise, be it experience wise, but it's just a matter of just going ahead, taking it slow, and finding the right people who will partner with you along the way. I'd love to just open up to questions. Anyone, like, any questions for Marina and EJ before we dive into more specifics?
Hey, I had a quick question, Marina and EJ. So as I mentioned, I'm developing a new essential amino acid drink that actually tastes really good. And so I was wondering, you guys were just talking about manufacturing and the capsules, and someone suggesting, hey, that's like there's a minimum and that might not be very viable. But amazing that you guys were like, nope, I'm still going to do it, and we're going to go for it. Did you guys ever think of kind of a single service, putting it in some kind of drink format?
Yeah.
If you guys did, why didn't you go for it?
Yeah.
If not,
Question.
yeah, would love to hear more about
Yeah,
other formats too. Not
yeah,
just
we
like,
did.
yeah.
We did, as we were in the R&D process, so we did have our formulation and we had a few ways of doing it. One was a tincture. And so we explored doing a tincture, and if we wanted to do these like drops that you could put in your water or tea or coffee, we would have had to create a tincture like this big to hold like
All of
like the
that.
dosage and
Yeah.
concentration that was effective. So it would have, I'm exaggerating, but it would have, we had to make it a really big bottle, which defeated the purpose. We then did also explore a powder. And so a powder that you would just dissolve with water. And because our formulation has curcumin, it has 550 milligrams of pure curcumin. It is very yellow. And that every time that you would put a scoop and mix it, it would stain the cup,
Um,
like
mhm.
everything, it would get stained, and your fingers and your, just the mouth, and it was just not viable. And then there was a flavoring thing that it's very challenging when you're doing a drinkable product because it needs to be good from a texture and flavor perspective, and then like dissolving it. And then also something that you would be, willing to take every day, happy to take every day. We looked into gummies as
Yeah.
well. We had the dosage, I think it was 8 gummies per day, just to, get the
Adequate
dosages
dosage.
that
Mhm.
we were looking to get. And the two challenges: too many gummies, too much sugar, and then
Flavors.
added, like you had to create the formulation for the gummy with ingredients that are not necessarily active ingredients.
Oh, I think she froze. Another one that we did the powder, like you can put it into if on like in like a hot tea or coffee or something. But then
Mm-hmm.
because we are using the very high
It is just
quality.
like,
Oh, sorry, you
yeah.
frozen, so I just
Oh, yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Rashni. So yeah, so we tried to do that, but then because of the turmeric is like really, really yellow, it was gonna like staining your clothing and it was just the fingers. It was just not good experience. So I think we kind of had to actually create a prototype to try it all. Again, remember we're the woman need eating.
Yeah.
So we're like,
Yeah.
what's better, So I
Yeah.
think that and I think that depending on the type of consumers that you're after,
Yeah.
what kind of lifestyle they're living, and then therefore how we want to fit in. And I think that another insight for us is that we are talking about women in their 30s and 40s, and maybe like on the early side of 50. They already had this routine of taking various vitamins and things that,
Mm.
so it was more like you don't have to create like new habit. And I think that's
Yeah.
another thing to think about. Like, do we have to teach people a completely new routine or like a habit? Versus,
Yeah.
is it something that we can be additive? Of course, that comes with education as well, no matter which route. But I think that was important for us to also think about, like, how do we show up? And, we selected a certain ingredients for very specific reason, but also a patented extract, and that allow us to put enough. And I think that was very important. Like one of the things that we put in the product brief, there are way too many products that has like 20 things sprinkled. And we're like, how do you know if that's going to actually do the job? It looks
Mhm.
good,
It's the
right?
combination,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. The list is long and it's like looks like you're checking a lot of boxes, but we kind of challenge that. We're like, we want to make sure that it's adequate. So we only use the ingredients, not only medical herbs, but also per clinical trial of each of these ingredients, that they have studies, they have a research done for adequate doses that actually makes a difference. So we wanted to make sure that we're putting enough of that. So that was also another thing that we wanted to, that was like a decision driver, if you will, because
Yeah.
we couldn't just go with like any kind.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Love that.
These are
Yeah.
great points. Like, what a
Yeah.
product journey you've had, both of you. It's incredible to see that, you know what, for founders typically think that, you know what, this is how it would look like. And you go with that. But as you said, you started with an education series to only land onto something else. And it took several years to get to the supplement. So it's been sort of a very, very sort of a transformative journey based on learnings. I'd love to now get into a little bit on the operations side of things, because a lot of folks here are building brands, or some are building CPG brands. So let's talk about how you stayed in the game. So you have done 2 rounds of manufacturing. You've won a lot of awards. You just got a patent in US. Congratulations. And of course, you have built a strong, loyal customer base, all with bootstrapping. So the question is that there are so many well-funded competitors that have entered your space. How do you compete with someone, how did you go about competing with these well-funded competitors when you both are bootstrapping?
Um,
Well, I'd
oh, go ahead.
say,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say I must have like delay with my
Yeah.
connection. Sorry. Um, One of the key things for us is that we're the founders, the face of the brand, and the women in perimenopause. And we are so invested in this. And that shows. That shows when you are speaking with a customer. And that shows when you're speaking with people that you meet at events or some conference about perimenopause. Just really caring about the problem more than anyone else. Not that we're invalidating other founders and other people in this space, but that for us and for founders in general, that is like a credibility and an equity advantage for the brand, despite the budget that you have. So that is something that as we show up, it earns credibility and it earns trust around the fact that you're in it, that you're going through it, that you're invested not only from a financial perspective because we're putting our own money in it, but then also because we are women in perimenopause and we are just really going through the same things as our customers are going through. And when we put information out there, we're being very truthful in the way that things are working for us or in the way that we're experiencing things or seeing the world and through what's happening to our bodies. And that is something that we don't take for granted and that we know that is something that customers and people in general, like even thinking about investors, will see and will think as a valuable asset for brand building and also just like showing up in the world as a brand.
But also there's always gonna be competitors. And I think, when you're so attached to your own project, it hurts you when somebody comes faster with a bigger budget and there are a lot of things we're still figuring it out, right? So I think that just continue to remind yourself so that you know why you are doing what you're doing, and then knowing that you are truly believing the story and the solution that you've been part of. I think that's really important. And I think, as Marina said, I think us being the founder and then, you got to show up. That's another thing. Sometimes we have to make time. We don't always have a lot of time, but I think that's another thing, you have to be the face. So I think that's something to think about as a founder, is like how much of the brand is you and the brand. And then as a result, like how are you showing up? But also how do you create a healthy sort of boundaries so that you don't get so consumed? I think I think they're all different kinds of archetypes of founders if you think about it. So I think that I'm sure we all admire certain people out there, but I think it's important to turn that into like what's our unique, authentic version that if that drives us, like, right? We have to ask that question individually.
No, that's a fair point. It's how you show up, and because you are the brand, especially in the early days, it's the founders. They are the brand. Brand is you. So the question for you, as you are bootstrapping, and many I know are bootstrapping here as well, and both of you have marketing backgrounds, so yet to all bootstrappers, seriously. So question is, like, how are you building visibility? EJ and Marina, you mentioned you're showing up in conferences, in trade shows. Like, what are some of the ways you are building visibility, and what have you learned along the way? Because I think a lot of founders are sort of in that place that, I don't have, I've invested all of my capital into building the product or investing in R&D or what have you. Now I barely have any budget for marketing. Well, how can I build my brand visibility?
I think for us, starting with own channel, right? So we can go ahead and create our own Instagram. And frankly, I mean, even that, right? Like, so we have Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, but we are mainly focusing on Instagram, but then we're branching out to making sure that we are hitting on other channels as well. But I think these are the kind of deciding things. Like if you want to do everything on 100%, everything right and everything on at the same time, 100%, you will need a team. But that's the kind of question, like, can you all do it? And I think, again, personally, for me, it was really hard to kind of like live with the fact that we won't be able to do all 10 out of 10 and everywhere. But I think that's the kind of negotiation that you do with yourself and say, okay, that's there's your personal ambition, but also as a company, as a brand, there are steps that needs to be taken, right? And then I think this is where I think having that sort of kind of someone who thinks about it, but also bringing different perspectives good so that you can kind of, whether that is your co-founder or somebody that you can trust, you can just talk about. I think it's important to, vet through all that thinking and then just making sure that the efforts are not so scattered, but also like making sure that if you're going to do like one or two things like that, let's do one or two things really well.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean also being too loud either. I think consumers lately are very savvy. So you're like putting for the AI first models or like, people catch all that, right? So again, what's the choice that we're making? How do we continue to show up as human and relatable bodies? And and then we, as both Marina and I think we also had to get over the fact that like we're not used to talking about our problems publicly. So I think that's something as a founders, I think we had to learn. And I don't know, people from on this call, maybe they're feeling very comfortable, but I think there's some people not always totally public and comfortable. But I think when you become the brand, then you have to do a little bit of that. So, we go to the conferences, we show up in a different, like a marketplace. And I think we're trying to be also selective because if you say yes to a lot of the opportunities, there are a lot. But I think this is where, like, how do you want to show up and how do you maximize the one or two opportunities really well versus showing up in all kinds of places you're hitting left and right, but you may not really totally understand or make sense of the ROI if you don't really have that expectation and then therefore some focus areas,
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, so you make a really good point, EJ, that it was a learning for us, and it is focus, just unrelentless focus on really doing a few things, and just when you see results, just moving to the next versus trying to do a lot of things at the same time, unless you have a bigger team, which we do have a team, but still, we're a handful of people trying to do a lot of things. And so being very single-minded in where you're putting your focus as well as your money, that was a learning for us because everything looks exciting and there's a lot of people that will come to you with very exciting opportunities and things to do, but then being able to afford all of those things and then show up to all of those things meaningfully, and then learn that some of those things not necessarily are bringing back the investment or the results or the reach that you were expecting. And so I'd say less but better, and being very single-minded as much as possible. And then the other thing I would say is, and we're very much organic growth, word of mouth, really just like showing up and IRL and building relationship with people. And so networking for us has been another key area of, I wouldn't say focus because that was something that we've been doing for a very long time, but we've seen things happen through our network that has been very meaningful. So we started this 6 years ago when we had nothing more than an idea of doing something in women's health. And we met a lot of very interesting, very remarkable people. And then as we progress, because we were all in a similar journey, it's people that we still today collaborate or partner with or get a coffee and some advice. And so building that network, it's also helpful in terms of building your brand and building your word of mouth, not only to sell products, but just to cast out a wider net of interesting, smart people out there that you can work with, partner with, and get advice from. So that's another big one for me.
And I want to address Mordecai's question about how do you stay in the conversation of business when discuss so much, so much that's really personal and sensitive. And I think from just putting through this question, the NNABI way, I think I think perimenopause, believe it or not, is a very personal experience. And also oftentimes the people find it quite embarrassing because either your period is wacky, something you're excessively bleeding. Sometimes you don't want to talk about that kind of stuff, but that's when people are like, oh wow, like this, I'm not the only one. And then also like the whole like depression, anxiety, like I'm not what I used to be. I used to be a very confident type A person and feel like I'm losing, I'm losing my game. Nobody wants to talk about that at work. Then the relationship, like the libido department is just like, am I falling out of love? Or like, like all of these things are very sensitive and a personal topic. I understand it's not as, it's not death, but it's just to thinking through the NABI experience. I think that's first thing first. I think we realize that we have to talk about it, but again, we're still working through that as people because it's not always natural to like talk public about all this. And I sometimes see like the Gen Z founders and they're like so raw, and I'm like, whoa. But at the same time, like, is that me? No. So I think finding that, I think that creating a bit of an intimate setting. So we do like IRLs that Marina was talking about that we don't really like publicly talk about, but those have been sort of pockets of communities and then sort of like a private WhatsApp chats, and that sort of like people recommend each other so that we kind of come together and then creating a really safe space. They don't all turn into sales though. And I think this is where, to your point, like the business situation is real. Like, at the end of the day, we're here as a business, so we do need to drive revenue. But I think it's a more of the what kind of, sort of the timeline that you have, because, we would like to think that we are doing the right thing from the education, and then people see themselves and being heard. And then hopefully through that community that we'll be able to, we don't always talk about product at all. I think it's just talking about life, but then that life, then problems, and then that connection that leads to, I think that from the connection with NABI and the NABI community. And then, so I think this is the journey that we're in right now. So I think, I don't know, in terms of thinking about like creating a pocket of really private settings or communities that people will want to talk about, because everybody also deal with death differently. So I think that's also another thing that I've learned, because I actually lost my mother 8 years ago, and I see people who have lost their mothers and the loved ones, and we all kind of process things differently. So I think that's been helpful to connect through that. But then from there on, like, is there some other ways that we can branch out and then talk about? And also, like, what is it that you're doing is providing a service or support that these people that don't even think that they need, but they will be at least maybe at some point connect the dots. And hopefully we wish the same thing for NABI. People may think they're like, oh no, I'm like too young, or oh no, I'm fine. And then they keep hearing about this real conversation, and they realize like, you know what, I think I may need something. And then that's sort of how then we start bringing, but it's a long tail. So I think that's something that we are trying to figure out. That's why we're trying to be resourceful, because you have to keep funding your business. And if you're, again, taping into your savings, you are very conscious, right? So we know that we have to be patient, but then we are constantly having this conversation of like, what does a patient look like? How long can we be patient? To what point? And I think that's always on conversation, because we can't just be here to educate all the time, but we also believe that without education, we shouldn't be selling anything.
100%. It's a great insight, EJ and Marina. I think what I'm seeing is that both of you are playing a long game, very relationship focused. And yes, it seems like sales are a little bit slower. It's very educative in the beginning, but the kind of relationships, partnerships you're forming, and friendships, more importantly, will take you much further. So
We hope so. We hope so. But we see also, brands who have gone through this sort of typical like scalable model where they did raise, and nothing wrong with that. I think it's more of a choice. How do you want to own your own ventures, right? So I do see businesses they did raise. Then when you raise, I mean, obviously you have certain numbers that you have to hit. It's a very different rhythm. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that then we just have to be ready for it, right? So whatever decision that we make, I think it's very clear that either you need to be a little more patient, or if you're going to bring some outside money, nothing wrong with that. Actually, kudos to anyone who can do that. It's just that requires a whole nother level of intensity, and maybe the timeline you may not choose because it will be set for you. So I think just knowing that, and then one time this founder who's been doing this, and she's very quite successful. She has her own thing for like 10 years. And she said that she told me and a few others, like when we were having like one of those founder breakfasts, she said, don't always think that you have to raise to have your own business. And I think just because she probably has some, sticky situations as well throughout. So again, not all good or bad. I think it's just really depending on who you are, what your goal is, and people talk about what's your exit. And I think that we're still a little bit naive to say like, we'll have to do this for a long time. But sometimes like if I'm the VC, people want you to say, I want to exit in five years or 7 years. I want to be bought by whatever. There are founders like that, but I think we are just more, this is really truly something that we feel passionate about. And for now, we know there's so much that we have to do. So for now, we're just focusing on that. We're not really thinking about the end game, although I know that some people have told us that we have to have that picture in mind. So I just want to share that because that's something we're trying to work through and as a individually, but as also together as a founders. And even though it's an early stage for you guys, I think that sometimes depending on who you're talking to, they may ask you. And I think, you don't have to be defensive or anything, just more like having your point of view is, I think, helpful because people want to know what's your end goal.
No, totally. I think such amazing insights. We're almost on time, 10 minutes. I'll ask one last question and open it up for questions from audience. I'm just curious, EJ and Marina, you've had an amazing, incredible journey these past 6 years. You've built a CPG brand. I mean, building a consumer brand is so difficult in this day and age, and that too with complete bootstrapping and in an area that you're unfamiliar with. And we talked about, IP protection and trademark and patent, like lot of regulatory constraints you have overcome. Is there anything, if you look back, you would do differently? Like one thing or two things you would do differently, or anything you would share with other founders who are on similar journeys building consumer brands um, that they can take with them?
I don't know if there's anything that I would say. Something will come up, but what I would say, we were right. We were good doing, and it's such a relief just to see, to look back and say, like, I'm so glad that we did that. So I would say, because EJ and I are partners, just doing if you have a business partner, doing all the work, the paperwork of the corporation, LLC, whatever you're putting together, do it. It's not like you're, like doing like a little, paper and agreeing on, though legally that's also something that it helps. But just doing due diligence and really creating the foundation of what the company is and how you guys want to work. So for us, it worked really well. And EJ and I have, both of us, a personality that we're very direct, and we're just like straight shooters. And it's just like, yeah, 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 let's get that done. And that was like the first thing that we did when we agreed to create NNABI, was just like getting the paperwork and the foundation of the company in a place where we were both comfortable, and then just like doing the work. I would say anything that has to do with IP and trademark protection, which is the money that we invested at the beginning, it was pretty steep, like legal expenses. It was pretty steep. And when you're putting money from your own pocket, it's expensive, but it's such a great investment. Depending on what category you're building in, for us, it makes all the sense. And now, as we speak with people and explain that we have a patented product, that we created the formulation, that it's something that's specific to us, that we have awards that are tied to that, that it's something that creates value for ourselves and for the company. And so it might feel that it's very expensive, but it's worth investing in that. And the third thing that I would say, as we talk about investors and VC money, I think that's something that it's it comes from the founders, is the conviction on whatever you're doing. For us, it's perimenopause, and really bringing awareness and education and a really high quality natural solution to women in perimenopause. That conviction, that's nothing a VC will come with or someone else. Like, that's within you, that's your passion. You can see through that, and that ultimately helps move the company and yourselves, and the conviction of others in the company and the founders. So I'd say those are three things that I feel we have done right, and maybe EJ, you come with something that we didn't do right, or we could have done better. But those are the things that for me looking back are really, really meaningful and valuable.
Yeah, I don't know about something that we will like undo and do it again, but I just want to share that like I think it's very easy for people in this spot that we all are the founders, we're building something. I mean, there are so many doubtful moments and some people will cherish us, some people will just never get us. But I think that's something that having this type of community is actually really important. And I think having people who are really believe in your mission. And I went we were kind of doing one of these things some time ago, and then this person who like I've spoken like 5 years ago was on that webinar, and she kind of made a joke like, oh, you didn't give up. But I think that the goal is that if you're onto something, I'm sure it's a really good idea. um, but there is going to be a lot of naysayers, and but I do think that as long as you believe it, you keep also find a resourceful way to hang in there. I think that is the time, and then that grade of like hanging in there. I think that is, I do think that that's become such an important part of the journey than like you actually going out with the gangbuster right away, because like it's so, I don't know, whatever you created is so epic. I do think that there's benefit of being resourceful, and then again, how do you stay in the long game as much as you can? I think that you can't ignore. Like if we gave up, maybe last week when we heard that the patent is approved, like I don't think we ever actually thought that it's going to come through. But like again, like 3 years have gone by, we kind of forgot the time. And I think that these are the kind of moments. And also we do see other fellow business that like kind of either they're selling, they're folding. And I think because they must have scaled a little too fast and they can't keep up. So I think that's another way to, another thing to think about, because, scaling, again, depending on your goals, scaling is good. But again, like, can you live with the fact that it might be a shorter journey than you may think? And I think these are all the questions, no real like right or wrong answer. And I think that for us, I mean, you know, I'm not sure if anyone is everyone doing double day here, or is everyone like full on building their thing? I don't know what the stat is
It's a
here.
mix. It's a mix,
Mixer.
EJ.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say like sometimes we definitely get this sort of classic, oh, if you are holding on to other job, like you might not be serious. But I'll say, you know what? Like F off. First of all, if you're not doing it, you can't comment on. It's a hard choice to make to be a double day person. And I actually admire that. Again, I also respect if somebody just believes in so much they go all full on, but I just want to just remind people who might be doing double day, don't be discouraged, because there's nothing wrong with having your, full-time job, and then, you're actually building your passion project. So there are many of us out there actually. We just need to find the right community so that we're all understood. Thank you, Vaughn. Stay in
Thanks,
touch.
Juan.
Thank you.
So we have time for one more question. Anyone? For EJ and Marina.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you. Every time I listen to one of these, I am so encouraged. I can relate to a lot of things, but also I learned new things and took some notes, and just really impressed by what you guys are doing. And I can't wait to check out your website.
Oh, thank
We're
you.
redoing it, by the way. Like
That
some of the
actually, you know what? Going back to your question, one thing I would have done it, I redo would be website. The thing is, Amy, we're not a website experts either, right? So we needed some help to build a website, but then we actually realized that now that we've been in this market for 2 years, we realized that there are certain things that website just not equipped to do the way it was set up, but we didn't know enough to actually influence what was wrong at the same. But again, here's all learning. So now that we learned that this actually is a business imperative, we are taking we're kind of like, okay, we're gonna redo it. So that's what Marina was saying, that we're actually redesigning, redoing the back end. But these are the kind of things sometimes you learn the hard way, or you just learn, and then you just have to keep do it again and again every few years. So I mean, I don't want us to get too hard on ourselves, but that's like one thing I'm like, I only wish we knew, then we would have saved
Yeah.
money, but also then you can't go back, think like that, right? Yeah.
Totally. I think you have to give yourself grace. We are all learning here. So I'm so glad you shared, EJ, the website. Feel free to check out Nabi. I think most of us are on the same in the right age bracket. For this supplement, to check them out, follow them. EJ and Marina, thank you again, both of you, for this incredible insights. I think I'm sure all of us took away is your journey. It's been such a very, very mission driven and very intentional steps along the way with a lot of thoughtful reflection. I see a lot of founders who are trying to go fast, and fast is, I'm not saying good or bad, but you tend to make more mistakes when you're trying to grow fast, or you raise capital soon enough, and then you have to meet a lot of milestones VCs have. So thank you both for doing this
Yeah.
slowly and steadily. Yes, EJ.
Just one thing. So for the folks on this call, so Nabi is very open to also either do like webinar together, or we can do if you guys having like an in-person, meetups or something. We do sometimes like product giveaways, or just bring the education. All to say that like if you are talking to the same kind of audience that we are talking to, the women in their like mid 30s to 40s to early 50s, and if you feel like, again, check us out on our website and then Instagram. And so just to see if you feel like our values are aligned, please let us know if you want to partner and think about something together. And then if you also have any other business or founders that might you want to put us in touch. We love to network. We love to meet more people like us out there doing our thing. So I appreciate any connections. London is okay too. We have a lot of good friends in London, so please. And it's a good market. We're not there yet, but that's the goal. So maybe, Morkai, we might have to come to you and say, hey, hook us up.
No problem. No problem.
Sounds great.
Amazing.
Thank you both again.
Thank you so
And
much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
absolutely.
Nice meeting you
Thank
all.
you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye,
Take
guys.
care.
Bye. Bye-bye.